Backstory: I was employed as a customer service officer. I had been with the bank for about 18 months at this point, mostly working afternoon shifts. But recently, the bank had moved to a 24-hour customer service model. So while most of the bank would be closed, head office, complaints, credit, etc., we were still open. Let me set the scene. 10 p.m. midweek. Fluorescent lights flicker overhead. The call board's empty, and I'm literally counting the seconds left in my shift, ready to go home. A phone call pops into my screen. I think, shoot, I always get a call just before I finish. Me mustering my best customer service voice. Hi, thanks for calling bank. You're speaking with OP. How can I help you? I hear nothing but dead air, so I start to repeat myself. Hi, you're speaking with. That's when I hear the tone of voice and words every contact center worker has heard at some point. It just lets you know you're in for a great call. Not. Yes, I'm here. God, what takes you people so long to answer? What are you doing? As noted before, there were no calls on the board. This customer didn't wait in queue. He would have dialed, gone through the IVR to enter his customer number and PIN before being put through to me. Max 60 seconds. Me trying to not provoke any further and get this customer off the phone as quickly as I can so I can get home. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Our system doesn't show a queue, but I'm sorry you had to wait. What can I do for you this evening? The customer seems to settle down and starts explaining that the reason for the call was the interest charges on the most recent credit card bill. He was sure they were a mistake because I always pay my bills on time. And I don't like paying you bloodsuckers any more than I have to. Charming, I know. So I placed him on hold to look at his account. I started looking at the payment history, when payments were due and received, when the balances were, etc. Then I quickly looked at the customer's interaction notes. This is where the bank records any contact with the customer as well as any fee waivers, special interest rates, etc. And I see an interesting series of notes from colleagues of mine stating things like, customer advised interest was charged due to full payment not received by due date. Customer threatened to close all accounts with bank. Manager approved interest waiver. Notes like this went on for months until there was a note from the head of customer relations and retention stating, if customer threatens to close accounts to seek waiver of fees, interest, or other charges, please process immediately. No retention authorized. I was a bit shocked because usually the bank would do a lot to keep existing customers. Like they told us in training, it's cheaper to keep a customer than it is to gain a new one. So I call over my night manager to read the notes and give him a heads up. I've got a feeling the customer is going to be demanding another interest waiver. My cool night manager said, well, if he does, do what the note says. Total hold time, maybe 2 minutes. I take the customer off hold and thank him for waiting. About time. My time is very valuable, you know. So, have you fixed it yet? I start explaining that the interest charges are valid because he didn't pay off his balance before the due dates. He goes ballistic. He starts calling me every conceivable name under the sun and mid-sentence stops. He plays it like he's just had an idea. Fine. If the interest charges are valid, I'm going to close my accounts. I want to close my accounts with you now. At this point, I'm excited about putting him in his place, but I also want to cover my own butt. So I ask, so just to be certain, you're instructing me to close all of your accounts with us, including your credit card saving account and transactional account? Are you stupid? That's what I said. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Me grinning ear to ear. Okay, no problem. I'll just place you on hold and do that for you. I hit the hold button fast, just as I heard him say, no, with my night manager's help, we close his accounts. His savings account was a term deposit. So by breaking the term early, he had to pay an early access fee of 10% of the balance. We used the money in his transactional account to cover the outstanding balance on his credit card. including the interest, and sent a request for a check to be issued for the remaining money. I took the customer off hold. Again, thank you for your patience. As requested, your accounts are now closed. Was there anything else I can help with tonight? If I thought the customer went ballistic before, oh boy. There was talk of suing the bank, suing me, suing my night manager, suing head of customer relations and retentions. That we were guilty of discrimination. That I didn't have the authority to do what I did. He's going to call the police. We're thieves. Some other ways of telling me how useless I am and how I can kill myself. You get the picture. Me still smiling because I know I nor anyone else at my bank will have to deal with this butthole again. Sir, I understand you're upset. However, on a recorded phone call, you instructed me to close your accounts. I have complied with your wishes. As there is nothing else for us to speak about tonight, thank you for calling bank. Have a good night. And hung up on him before he could say another word. My night manager created an incident report and sent it to head of customer relations and retentions with an attached copy of the call recording. I later found out head of customer relations and retention sent the customer a letter telling him he was banned from our bank for life due to the, quote, vile and disgusting way he had spoken to me. We would never do business with him ever again. And if he called or visited a branch, we would be the ones calling the police. Do you want to know what the total interest charges were that started all this? $30. His term deposit had $20,000 in it. He cost himself $2,000 in early exit fees because he thought he could bully his way out of $30 in interest. Our next Reddit story is from Azakira. This happened quite some years ago when I had dizzy spells and would randomly pass out frequently. Still undiagnosed due to a sucky doctor, but went away on its own. Due to these dizzy spells, I was very hesitant to give up my seat on trains and buses, as I was afraid I'd fall and hit someone or something. I would still stand up if someone really looked like they needed it and ask politely, but I just didn't offer. One day, I was getting on the train and an old lady carrying a cane wanted to board too. A gentleman offered her help. Do you need a hand, ma'am? No, thank you. I don't even need this cane. She swings it around. But my husband insists I use it, just in case. She then hops on the train. I end up in the same area as the old lady in two of the very few open seats. After a few stops, a Karen enters. She had the haircut, the clothes, and the attitude. By now, all the seats are filled, and there are already people standing around due to the lack of seats. Karen pushes through a few people, looks around, and loudly exclaims to no one in particular, "Will nobody offer a lady their seat?" Nobody responds. She then goes around complaining to a few random people sitting down that she needs to sit because she's been standing for over an hour. Oh, the horror. Try working retail. And she just needs to put her feet up on a full train. Okay. One person gets fed up and gives her a seat right across from the old lady from before. The Karen now has a seat, but still no place to put her feet up. She complains to the person next to her and to the old lady that these trains are always so cramped, and it would be good if people who didn't need seats just gave them up. The awesome old lady took this as her cue, made a point of standing up really slowly and carefully, grabbing her cane and clutching it tightly, and said, "You can have my seat. Your feet probably need it more." She then walked away very slowly, leaning heavily on her cane and asking people to please step aside so she could fit through. Karen got many angry glares at this point, and she called out to the old lady, "You can just keep sitting here. I don't need it that badly." And the old lady replied, "You just said that you really needed it, so take it," and walked to the next cabin. Karen couldn't see her anymore at this point, but from my seat, I could see the old lady stand up straight and pick up the cane, swinging it around again. I don't think many people saw it because everyone continued to glare at Karen until she got off at the next stop. The old lady just really wanted to teach Karen a lesson by complying and acting her age, making Karen look like a jerk. She has been my hero ever since. Everyone's heard about man-spreading on trains and buses. What I want to know is how come no one's talking about Karen spreading on trains and buses? And we have a couple of very interesting and very similar stories down in the comments. First from Kiffarella. OMG, I sorta did this, but on my own behalf, lol. See, my boys, young adults, needed groceries, and I needed to go to the hardware store next door. Obviously, in front of the grocery store, there was a loading and crossing area, the diagonal lines, with stop signs at either end. I stop briefly at my stop sign and then roll up to the door and stop to let the boys out. I hear the shriek of brakes behind me and realize someone was following too closely and not paying enough attention. Presuming that I wouldn't be letting anyone out in the area designated for such activities, they had almost rear-ended me. They laid on their horn and I could see them thrashing and screaming about in their car. A younger lady. The dude next to her looks unhappy. The boys get out and I continue on my way, and now she's swerving wildly back and forth behind me. I can see her in my rear view, screaming and red-faced. I make it to the stop sign before the hardware store, and I make it the full legal 3-second stop. Her whole car is rocking from her tantrum, and she swings into the next available parking spot, 2 down from mine, as I pull into the first handicap spot. I see her barreling out of her car, and seeing me, I swear to God, I have never gotten out of a car slower or with more difficulty managing my cane into position. And I got to watch her whole rage and demeanor collapse upon itself as she realized she would either be that grunt who attacked a disabled woman or got her butt kicked by a disabled woman. Our next post is from Fish Hall. For context, my family and I recently moved into a rental house while our new house is being built. The rental is in the back of a gated community on a mostly undeveloped street. Yesterday, I received a letter from the Homeowners Association informing me that I'm not in compliance of the strictly enforced by towing restriction, stating that vehicles may not be parked on the street overnight. In the letter was a picture of my project car, an old BMW, parked beside our house on the street. I decided to look up the HOA's restrictions, which I haven't seen before since I'm a renter, and discovered I'm living in HOA heck. The street parking rule is just the beginning of a long list of restrictions, including one warranting a hefty fine for leaving the garage door open when not in use. This came as a huge surprise, since several of my neighbors have parked their cars in the street without problem since I've lived here, so I assumed it was okay. I can only assume that they've singled me out because my car is 30 years old. However, in my defense, it's very presentable and by no means junky. Being singled out made me incredibly frustrated to the point where I started doing legal research. It turns out my HOA has every right to tow my project car since it's parked on a private street in the neighborhood. The good news for me is that the street just outside of the neighborhood is public, and it's 100% legal to park on it for any amount of time. Unfortunately for the HOA, the closest section of public street to my rental house is right in front of their nice gated entrance. Ironically, my old BMW has now become part of their image, and there's nothing they can do about it until I move out in a few months.